Welcome back, viewers at home. You're still tuned in right here on Prime Live Channel 345. What a great evening for us to be delving into how other, solidarity groups like that's joining us tonight, they are continuing to share more insight and, finding ways of ensuring that, the cause of Palestine doesn't go unnoticed or doesn't die down. And I think tonight with my conversation with Faseegah Davids, a representative of the Palestine Solidarity Alliance, will look into understanding as well as exploring the strategies, priorities, and activities of the Palestine Solidarity Alliance in advancing the Palestinian cause, specifically around, how we can do better and more so paying attention to the meeting that they are planning to host. But assalamu alaikum, Faseegah, jazakallah so much for joining us.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you for having me.
I think my first question tonight, if you can just kindly describe your approach to involving young activists and alliances in the movement for Palestine.
Sure. So I'm currently I serve as the coordinator for the Palestine Solidarity Alliance. Okay. And as an organization, we also have the Palestine Solidarity Alliance Youth League, which is a committee that exists in its own structure, essentially. And for the upcoming youth meeting, which is what we'll speak later about, the Youth League will be leading on that. And the meeting is essentially about youth organizing themselves amongst each other. We have invited, and the invitation is still open to various youth that is involved in the social justice or activism space. We want the meeting to be as inclusive and as broad as possible, but essentially it's about organizing around international solidarity and strengthening local communities.
And I think outside, before I get into our other questions around this conversation, I want to find out, is it only around youth or any individual who's very connected to the cause or to the movement itself are welcome to be part of it?
So for the movement itself, anyone who's connected to the cause is more than welcome to take part. Okay. For the meeting specifically, however, it's a mass youth meeting. Okay. So we are looking at ages between 16 and 35 years of age. Those are the members that will be invited. And they need to RSVP, of course, to the youth meeting.
Oh, okay, amazing. I needed to get that clarification. But still on the work that is being done by the PSA, and from what we've seeing, there's been growing concerns around, the human rights violation around the globe and how everybody's turning a blind side. And it's bringing conversation to say, I guess human rights has a race. There's certain, humans that deserve to be, dignified and recognized as humans, and there's others whom are not recognized, hence their rights, the just basic rights are being violated. And with this growing concern, I want to find out how is PSA going about leveraging this ongoing concern to continue to educate and share in awareness and bring in that positive energy in how we can continue to use our resources in really sharing in more information around the cause of Palestine.
Yeah, so 100%. Thank you for that question. So we are doing a lot of work, and there will be a lot of upcoming educational work around international solidarity, around political education that will be hosted by the PSA, but then also with collaboration with so many other solidarity organizations in Gauteng and in South Africa. Tomorrow, for example, we are forming part of a Tshwane town hall meeting. So at the town hall, we're going to get community members and activists that are in the area, and we will be kind of just listening to where they are right now as activists, what are the current issues that they are facing, and then how do we connect that to international solidarity and the cause for Palestine. We also have an upcoming plan in Soweto to mobilize there as well and organize around that community. So we are going community by community, group by group, to try and learn as much as we can and then find out where we can connect the struggles, essentially to strengthen international solidarity.
Amazing. And with that being said, how does PSA prioritize its campaigns in response to the evolving struggles of Palestinians?
That's a good question. It's a very busy organization, and so the question of priorities, it's always difficult because I think as activists and as passionate activists in the movement, everyone wants to do everything.
Yeah.
The reality is we can't always do everything, but we try really as best as we can and do as much as we can. Right now, we are definitely focusing on communities, so different communities and community building essentially in different areas around Gauteng.
And I can only imagine doing so much, doing everything, sometimes some things slip through the cracks and you find yourself, trying to channel funds for the humanitarian aid. The next thing you find out that actually there's another issue that needs the attention. Now you have to pivot to that. And my question, I think, just to bring more focus to what I'm trying to ask is, how do you then continue to stay, progressive in assisting the Palestinians without really losing sight of the many things that you find yourself doing as PSA?
100%. So I think this is why reflection is so important, and that's something we generally do as an organization. We take time to reflect, we take time to slow down, and recently actually, but I'll slow down. People will be like, no, but the PSA is still really busy, right? But we do actually take time to slow down. I think there is this intentional awareness and a consciousness of how the movement is operating, and we're always open to feedback from the ground. In order to learn better, to do better, and to improve our activism.
I think that you're about to have a meeting that's going to be quite engaging and quite educational in that sense.
Sure.
I want to find out, in terms of seeing the rich history of South Africa, how is that going to be leveraged in really bringing a more clearer understanding, a more what they call it, resonating understanding with regards to what the Palestinians are going through, and most importantly, how can this be then utilized in the liberation or strengthening the support for Palestine?
Yeah, so really with these community meetings, it's important that we don't push for outcomes immediately.
Okay.
Community building takes time.
Yeah.
And I think as activists, when we look at the political world, or just I think even at politics in general, we want results now. But the reality is liberation is a process, and it takes time. So of course we're going in with key objectives, we have a plan, we have organized before the meeting and so on. But at the meeting itself, we will see what comes up. And during that facilitation, it's going to be about how do we take what's currently on the table and use that in a meaningful way to connect it again to international solidarity, but also not ignoring local issues.
Yeah.
The big importance is, I think, when it comes to community building and strengthening the alliance with Palestine and the global South, is understanding that local is global. Right. So that local community building is an incredible part, and it will take time, but that's definitely a process that we are in the process of, and have been in the process of for as long as the organization has been standing. I think, like you said, fundraising is a big thing, right? For NGOs and NPOs, they can't function without funds. And this is why everyone plays a pivotal part. Not everyone has the time or the capacity to kind of, get involved and physically do things for the movement and do things for the struggle of liberation, but some people can donate, they can share a post, and they can provide support to an activist. So everyone plays a pivotal role in the struggle for liberation.
I love how you mentioned something that is quite important, and I think it really brought us to an awakening of sorts when it comes to mainstream media and social media. For the longest time, it was like the trusted avenue to say, this is where we can get our information. This is where we can be heard. But we've seen when it comes to, DRC and Palestine, how things can easily be manipulated to seem or sort of downwashed in that sense. And I think this brings me to want to ask you, in terms of what approaches are the PSA, doing or partaking in to ensuring that the visibility of what is actually happening in Palestine is seen for what it is and not for what, the propaganda is trying to push across.
Yeah, so we're really active in terms of media. We've recently had an internal media workshop. We were exploring the different avenues of media and even the use of AI. When shouldn't we be using AI, and the ethics of that even in our reporting around Palestine. So we're trying to educate consistently ourselves and the communities around us wherever we have access to kind of get the news out there in the most truest, authentic form, which remains a big challenge, like you said, in the age of social media. But then we also have to be so grateful for social media, because it was able to kind of open up the eyes of so many people, not just young people. Everyone on social media almost now gets the news on Palestine.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so social media has played a pivotal role in shifting the narrative, and in helping people understand the truth of what's happening with live feeds from journalists in Gaza. So yeah, so that's one way. I mean, social media, we are active on social media, so people can follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and then there's our website, of course, where we kind of like release our statements. Today we just released a statement on the Hague group, and the different countries that participated in that, and we're calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. Yeah, so we are constantly on the ball, and we're striving, we're trying, and of course, like I said earlier, we remain open to learning from different organizations and from the ground, because that's where our work is, and that's where the work is for all of us as activists, essentially.
Now, I have a question that I have to ask, because you mentioned about, some of the strategies around when to use AI and when to not use AI. And I strongly believe whoever's watching Prime Live, they are pro-Palestine. And I think this could be essential to them. I don't know if in your capacity you are able to just share a bit in terms of what exactly you guys have, sort of understood from it or learned from it, and also most importantly in terms of the fact that your guys have a platform. If you can share the platform, because we know we're having a very fast-paced lifestyles where we cannot keep in touch, or we cannot keep up to date with everything that's happening, and like your individuals like yourself are out here keeping us up to date. If you can share where exactly they can tune in terms of their website.
Of course. So the website is palestinesa.coza, so that's .co.za, and then our Instagram is at PSA_SA, and then we have the Youth League page, so that's at PSA_YL, and they can just follow us and DM us there, and then we can connect them to the different events we're having, different protests. We can even connect them with other solidarity organizations that they may want to get involved in, or they can just email us, which is also available on our website. So if you go on our website, there's the social media icons, and they can just tap onto one of those, and then they can kind of get the updates from our side.
And then the whole AI thing,
yes.
Are you able to share?
Yeah, no, of course. So I think it was general ethics around journalism and AI that we were taught. So let's say, hypothetically, you are using AI to write a certain article or release certain content. It's important to say, like, with the use of AI, this was made, so that the viewer does know. You don't have to. I don't think we're there yet in terms of specifically mentioning the type of AI or the specific program used, but you need to let people know that this is with the help of AI or the use of AI. And then it comes to AI-generated images. Around Gaza, I am rather speaking in my personal capacity and not from an organizational perspective, but in my personal capacity, the conversations that I was having with some friends and really committed people to the Palestinian cause was that we should kind of stray away from using AI-generated images when it comes to Palestine, just because there are journalists risking their lives every day to kind of report what's really happening. And then we have to kind of think about the element of conscious media. So how much of the pictures coming out of Gaza is things that we want to share? Does this dehumanize Palestinian people? And it could be even Congo people, it could be Sudanese people. So when we are sharing things on our platform, I think it's about that sense of mindfulness and intentionality about what's the message we're trying to get across. And then again, that honesty of, like, where do I get this information from? Like we learned in school, you need to reference everything, right? Otherwise it doesn't count. So yeah, 100%.
Amazing. And just to close off our conversation, can you give us more details around the meeting that is taking place on the 3rd of August that you have just highlighted, that you are calling in all the youth who are interested and would like to be a part of, and just share in terms of what is the goal and expected outcomes of this mass meeting?
So again, strengthening communities, right? So we want to strengthen the youth around international solidarity for Palestine, but really, again, local struggles as well. So this is the underlying theme of all our work. Whenever we're doing anything, it's about local struggles, it's about connecting that with international solidarity and finding effective ways that we can activate going forward towards a liberated world. That's going to look different in every meeting, but essentially that's the underlying theme that we operate with and we operate from. For the youth meeting in particular, it's going to be, I think, about opening everyone's mind, right? Because everyone is so young and so opinionated and so cool and full of life and full of life, and I think what the meeting is going to be about is finding common ground, given the political differences we may have, cultural differences we may have, racial differences we may even have, and understanding how we're going to use this to fuel the movement going forward.
And it's only from 10 a.m. until 12:30.
Yeah, it's going to be a rich conversation, but this is an introductory,
Oh,
right?
okay.
Like I
Okay.
said, it's a process,
Oh,
right?
okay.
Liberation is a process. It's not going to happen in one meeting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's not going to happen in one protest.
Yeah.
You know, people go to like one picket or one protest and I'm like, oh, nothing happened yet. But that's the whole goal. You need to persist, right? The idea of the oppressor is for you to be discouraged,
Yeah.
is for you to give up. And the moment you stop, they win. So if you're fighting for anything, the idea is persistence. That will lead to success.
And I love that you highlighted that, because now, viewers at home, when they go into this, they go with a clear intention to say why they're going there, because you find that people are, this is a very a very passionate conversation that people tend to have, and when they go to such spaces as you mentioned, they have so much expectation to say we're going to come up with a solution, and I think when they come there and there's no solution, it's like, what was the point?
Yeah.
But I'm loving how you're saying, you know what, it's a process, and this
Yeah.
is just the beginning of many, and I think this will encourage others to keep in touch and really keep updated to being part of all the meetings. Is there anything that you'd like to share in closing before I conclude our conversation?
Yes, please reach to us. Please reach out to us on our social media platforms. Again, at PSA_SA. The youth meeting is happening on the 3rd of August. There are still some spaces left. There are limited seats available because we're taking it in as RSVPs are coming in. And then to speak to the solution part, there's something as a chant we say in protest that there's only one solution: intifada, revolution. I'll end up with that.
Amazing. Will it be hybrid though?
No, so this one is going to be a closed meeting.
Okay.
But from that, we will see. We will see how it goes, right? Because the activism space is fluid. So we will adjust accordingly to the team and the group as we go along.
Amazing, amazing. I cannot wait to hear more in terms of the outcome and the many mass meetings that will be taking place in efforts of really achieving that intifada, inshallah. But jazakallah so much, Faseegah, for joining us tonight and really giving us insight on the beautiful work that is being carried out by PSA itself.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Viewers at home, that was my lovely guest, Faseegah Davids, a representative of the Palestine Solidarity Alliance, sharing in to say, make sure you RSVP #1 to be part of this meeting and really join in with the intentions of understanding, most importantly, this is a process. It's not to say they're coming in, they're going to be giving solutions that we can, implement instantly, but it is a process where we all need to be a part of, so we can all make history as history was made before. But for now, we're going to close off and head over to an ad break. We'll see you just after this.